Yeah, I just finished installing a security system here, and we've got 16 cameras in this one location. I bought the system online. I was able to put it all in myself and save a lot of money.
To grill out, and so I called him, and he, of course, enjoyed that idea.
Steak or chicken?
Steak is always my kind of thing on the grill.
Okay.
Otherwise, I burn the chicken. I'm not that great at the chicken.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is May 20th, Thursday. It's been 3 weeks since the Josh Duggar story broke, and we have a lot to unpack right now because Jim Bob Duggar is going to build a fence or a wall around the house of the Rebers, and now there's new information suggesting why that actually might be occurring and what's going on with Josh since his release. He's staying at a house. So during a bond hearing, they did this huge interview with Maria and LeCount Reber, who testified that they would fully take Josh in, had no problem taking him in, even though Maria said that she might be uncomfortable being alone with him, and she had a daughter, Hannah, who was 22 years old, who did piano lessons. Maria and LeCount had to make some sacrifices in order for Josh to stay with them, which included their daughter Hannah no longer giving any sort of piano lessons to minor kids. The home, which is located in Elkin, Arkansas, is on 1 acre, and it has sort of trees around it, and the neighbors that are near them are not actually like right next to them, but sort of like on property adjacent to them and behind. So there's not a lot of people around close in proximity. And there's long gravel roads that go into this location, so it's not something that is easily accessible unless you're actually looking for the home. During the hearing, the judge was concerned that given the attention that this story has on the media and the interest in the story, given the public platform that the Duggars have and the very public place they live in the world because they're internet or they're reality TV celebrities, with that, she was concerned that they didn't really understand the magnitude and were they going to feel safe in a situation where there would be a lot of public interest. At the time, they said they were, everything would be fine. They felt like it was God's plan and they had to do this for God and obey God and give God what they needed, and they would get through it with God's love, right? And God's grace. So they go to church with Jim Bob Duggar, and that's how this whole thing was arranged. They had a very limited relationship with Josh leading up to all of this. In the day preceding Josh's release, so he was released from the Washington Detention Center on May 6th, and then on May 7th, he actually was, at the home settling in. So when he was released on May 6th, he had a whole host of things that he had to agree to, including wearing a GPS monitor, not having access to the internet, not having access to a phone, having to work, being prohibited from being around minor children, not being around even children that is in his family, and only being able to see his own children under the supervision of his wife, Anna. Once they moved in, apparently things popped off immediately. Now, obviously, there are people on the ground, reporters all over Fayetteville and Springdale and all the parts of Washington County where the Duggars live. And with that, there has been some people apparently around the Elkin property that the Rebers own. So apparently on the very next morning, so on May 7th, according to the Sun, the Rebers, someone in their home, called the sheriff's department and called 911 for assistance. They claim that the person that made the call, who was anonymous, said that they felt unsafe in their home because someone was trespassing on their property. So according to what the Sun says, they made a call at 10:31 in the morning on May 7th and said that there was a trespasser outside of their house. So they say that it was trespassing in progress at their home, and they said they wanted to remain anonymous and that the family no longer felt safe after seeing a car parked at the very end of their driveway. They also say that they had asked the driver of the car to leave earlier in the week, but the driver returned on that morning and they say that Josh was staying at the residence. So Josh's name is apparently listed in the incident report, and they claim that there's people driving up to the property and they're not wanting to go away. They're parking in the driveway and they're sort of scoping out the house. Now, it's not clear what happened, whether or not they actually went up to the property, if they were just reporters, maybe doing telephoto photos, whether it was actually someone from town who knew the Rebers. It was someone not identified, so it had to have been someone maybe from the media, I'm guessing. Although you never know. Now it's not clear specifically like what happened after the report was made. They don't have any incident report of the police going out there, clearing the trespassing, or if just calling the cops was enough to scare off this person. So Jim Bob's response is he's going to build a fence, which I don't understand how that's going to keep people out from driving past the house or driving near the home. He had to have realized, Jim Bob, that putting his friends in this position, knowing that there's people in town, specifically reporters, that are on the ground interviewing people, going to find witnesses, to talk with people, that by putting his friends in this position, that he would put them at risk. He must have realized that also putting their names out to the public because they testified in court and making them a part of this case would put them indirectly in the sort of witch hunt that's going on against Josh. Now, they would call it a witch hunt. Most people would just call it a story. So, but some people obviously don't like what Josh has done, and you do have to consider the fact that some people might want to go out and hurt him. And given that, why would Jim Bob want to put his friends' lives at risk knowing that? It's wild to me. If he's so concerned about the safety of his friends and of Josh, wouldn't it just be safer for all parties for Josh to have stayed in the detention center where no one would have been able to get to him? He probably could have been kept like in a holding cell, like in an isolation cell where he was kept away from other prisoners, out of general population, so people wouldn't hurt him, that kind of thing. Wouldn't that have been safer for him than putting him to a cushy house where he has a nice bed and it's, you know, he has access to whatever he wants in the home and the property? I mean, it seems to me that he was more concerned with maybe the image of getting Josh out and the perception of what it meant for Josh to be behind bars than it was about the safety of anyone but the inconvenience to Josh. So everyone else's safety is inconsequential than Josh getting out. It's ridiculous to me, but this is sort of how Jim Bob thinks, I believe. The house that they're staying in, now it's funny because the Sun reports that the house is a massive mansion. You guys, it's 2,400 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and it's a 1-story home. It's your average rambler. I guess that's what we would call it. They would maybe in the South call this a ranch because it's one single story. So it's not a massive mansion by any means. It's actually smaller than the house that Josh grew up in or lived in with his parents when they moved into the 7,000 square foot home. In that respect, Josh is living in a bigger place than he would have been living at before when he was living in the warehouse at his parents' house. So they've converted a warehouse into his apartment, sort of a guest house, they say. So it's bigger than that, but it's not a mansion by any means. It's just a regular house. But it does have a long gravel driveway. It is kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and it makes them vulnerable. And I don't understand why, again, Jim Bob would do this. But anyways, the 911 call says, we don't feel safe. There's someone trespassing at our house, which makes you wonder, like, how many people have been outside of this house, and if the Rebers have come to a point where it's like, you either get us a fence or he's out of here. You know what I mean? Like, do you think at some point the Rebers are going to put their foot down? Do you think at some point they're just like, I can't take this kind of heat anymore. I can't take this kind of scrutiny, and they're just like done with this? Or do you think they will just stick with this because they think that this is God's plan and with God's grace they can do this? I would love to know what your thoughts are about all of this. Is this a lot to ask of a friend? And do you think that there'll be more incidents like this? Will a fence actually deter this? Or will it just mean there'll be more people right outside the fence? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.